All right, I'd like to call to order the November 15th, 2022 Board of Education regular meeting at 7 p.m. Deanne, I'm leaving to you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Berardi?
Here.
Mrs. Deck?
Here.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Mazzano?
Here.
Mr. Monson?
Here.
Mr. Palazzo?
Here.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Here.
All right, I thank you. A quorum has been established. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would anybody like to read the mission statement tonight? Board members? Molly, can you read that?
The mission of Norwich School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence in a nurturing environment.
Thank you, ma'am. Celebration of success time. Who'd like to open that up? Anyone?
So I'd like to congratulate the Giles boys soccer team for earning second place in the Lyman Road Athletic Conference. They had a great regular season and a great tournament as well. So congratulations to them.
Okay. Next topic. Anyone else?
I want to extend congratulations to Alexandra Perry. She is the board member. Remember, she's actually the occupational therapist that we brought on. Had a bit of a challenge with getting the credentials for her, but she has passed the exam. She is ready to go shortly. Hopefully by first week in December will be when we're all tied up with that. So very excited for her for passing that exam.
I have a celebration. It is Board Member Appreciation Month, November. So, actually November 15th, which happens to be the day of our board meeting, is official statewide observation of Board Member Day in Illinois. Each year, this day is an opportunity to show our support for our Board of Education and the individual school board members who are committed to providing a local voice for our educational decisions. It's a time to acknowledge the board's role in creating educational opportunities that meet the goals set forth by the community for our children. These goals are measured by providing a quality education and a pathway to a successful future for each and every student. A great school system is a source of local pride among residents. We owe it to our children and to our students, the future leaders of our community and our country, to do everything in our power to provide them with opportunities for success. So I want to thank you, 7 members of the Board of Education. We have a little gift for you to celebrate being partners in excellence in education with you. Deanna and I will hand these out. Mr. Palazzo.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And it happens to be on this actual day, so that's pretty exciting for you guys. Sure. Celebrate at home with your families.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As many people know, Board of Education members are a non-compensated position, and we appreciate all the time that you give to our district and to our students. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
One more thing. I was at the 8th grade girls volleyball game today. They beat Rosemont, and now they're getting ready to go into the playoffs. I believe starts tomorrow. So I want to just congratulate the 8th grade girls volleyball. Good season, and Coach Judy for doing a great job with the team, and good luck with the girls. Okay. I'd ask the board to consider the approval of the agenda as presented or potentially modified.
Motion?
Any discussion? I'll ask for the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion made by Board Member Mazzano, seconded by Board Member Monson. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Bernardi?
Yes.
Okay, the motion does carry. I'd like to recognize the visitors here tonight. Thank you all for being here with us. It's a cold night out, it's wet and rainy, but thank you for being here. Means a lot. Correspondence, no correspondence this month. Public participation,
Anyone?
no FOIA requests this next month to report on. We'll go right to our presentation with Mrs. Guzzi.
Last month, I mentioned to you that the Illinois School Report Card was coming out in between from the October meeting to the November meeting. The report card has come out. So I'd like to share with you our IAR data. So Illinois put through designations, summative designations for the first time in a few years. The last time was in 2019 due to COVID. 2020, we didn't take IER at all. And then in 2021, we did. However, it was not taken, some school districts took it in the fall, some school districts took it in the spring. It wasn't as consistent. So they're not really using that data in our comparisons, which I'll show you right now. So this first chart shows our growth in ELA for the district. So when you're looking at this, you want to look at and this first top part right here is our district, and you want to look at, even if we're just looking at the colors, our colors it's really blurry. You have it in front of you in your Chromebooks as well. In 2022, we want to compare that to 2019, because that is what the state used. As I mentioned, 2021, we did take IER, but they didn't use that data in the comparisons with growth. They looked at 2019 and then looked at our growth in 2022 to make their final summative designations. So looking at this, just again, looking at the colors, you can see where we are in our light green, which is meeting, and then in our dark green, which is exceeding. And you can see that we are in a higher place, slightly higher than where we were in ELA in 2019. Going on to math, again, district is up at the top. You can see where the district was in 2022 and then where the district was in 2019. This is the opposite. You can see how the light colored green is now larger in 2019 and the dark colored green, above, approximately about the same. Then if we break it down by grade, we look at third grade, and we have a comparison of 2022 to 2019. In third grade, you can see that our growth from 2019 to 2022 was actually down. In fourth grade, pretty similar amounts. These are the two scores that went into the summative rating for Lee, because Lee only takes IER in third grade and fourth grade. Looking at math, you see pretty similar amounts. Third grade, kind of about the same in meeting, and then of course in 2019 a little higher with exceeding. In 2019 for fourth grade, the same kind of pattern continues. So you can definitely see a shift in ELA and math in third and fourth grade in the growth. Looking at Giles, which is 5th through 8th grade, the 5th grade up at the top, we compare again the two green charts from 19 to 22. You see a very significant amount of growth in meeting. And in 19, we didn't actually have any students that were exceeding. And in 22, we have a nice population here of students who are exceeding. That continues on. Similar pattern in 6th grade. We see the opposite in 7th. Where in 7th grade in 2019, we had a higher percentage of students meeting and exceeding than we do in 2022. And then we see that pattern shift back to more students meeting and more students exceeding in 8th grade. So they take all of this information and they put it into what our scores are. Oh, sorry, I forgot math. Math for 5th through 8th grade, We'll see a higher growth in math in 2019 in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Again, even just looking at those colors or numbers. So they take that final growth piece for us and they look at a district summary. So they made a summary of the district at 51% of the students met or exceeded expectations in IAR for ELA. And 34% were meeting or exceeding expectations in IAR and math. So when we do that comparison of where do we fall compared to other schools, because that's one of the, or other districts, that's one of the things that, we have to look at, because was this a shift because of COVID with all of us? Was this a shift just because of Norwich District 80? Where does that kind of come into play? And we can see that of this chart that has 30 different school districts on it, on the ELA sort, Norwich School District 80 comes up in the top 4th, with this comparisons are to Northbrook, Park Ridge, which is very local for us, Union Ridge, which ended up 53 and 35, 53% meeting or exceeding and 35 in math, so it's just slightly above us. Then we look at some of the larger school districts like Schaumburg, and then looking down to some of the other school districts in our area. Penoyer listed down here. If you're looking at things in our, even just in our sports area that we play volleyball games against, you can see River Grove down here, Rhodes, some of our comparison districts. If you look at this comparison in a math sort, so now we have District 80 coming out on, I would say the bottom half area, where we see some of those same high-performing districts at the top, the Northbrook districts, the Park Ridge districts, Pitt district up a little higher than us. We can find Union Ridge and Penoy are actually pretty close to each other right here, a couple of points ahead of us in math. I took that a step further and looked at the spending per pupil. So this sort has Norwich School District 80 down at the bottom. Looking at those districts at the top, we don't have Northbrook at the very top anymore. We actually have Rosemont at the very top. Rosemont spends $25,000 per student to educate their students in their schools. So what does that mean? That means if you take all the money that Rosemont spent last year on all the money that they spent, and you multiply that, or divide that, by how many students they have, they spent $25,000 to educate one student. Looking down that list in comparison, so we have Northbrook up there again, of course, for $24,000. Rhodes, which we saw much lower in both of the other areas at $22,000. Penoyer and Union Ridge coming in, not exactly where they are, so I can point to it for you. Right here, coming in at $17,000. So putting that in perspective, we've got, let's say we have 1,100 students. If we were spending another $6,000 per student, we would have approximately another $6 million that we would be spending. Now I show you this not to say that you need more money, because the money is what the money is. We don't have a venue for that. But I show you this because I want you to hear from me that we have a really great program going on here, despite having some of the other resources that some of the other districts have. So you look deeper into this and you say, well, okay, what is Rosemont spending $25,000 on? Well, their per pupil is 11 students to every one adult in the building. Ours is 20 students to every one adult in the building. Your most expensive thing in a budget is your staff. Salaries and benefits. If you look at Penoyer and Union Ridge, and I use those two districts because they're close by with us, they are 14 to 1 and 15 to 1 per adult in the building.
Michelle, I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
For comparison, how many students go to 78? have that in there?
to Penoyer,
I'm sorry, 78 Rosemont at the top.
Rosemont at the top.
Yeah, how many students are in there?
I believe it's less than 400.
Wow.
Very small. Penoyer right at 400. Union Ridge, I think it's 800.
So less than 400, and that's grades?
K through 8.
K through 8?
I'm sorry, maybe preschool through 8. I'm sorry.
Preschool through 8? One building?
Correct. One building.
Okay.
Actually, we're building a new building
Gotcha.
right now.
Okay, thank you.
So please don't think I'm showing you this to show you that we are the lowest on the list. We are the lowest on the list, but I think we're getting a very good product for what we have, what we're doing. I mean, if you look back at our other scores, you know, in ELA, the growth is actually, I mean, sorry, these are actually our scores, not the growth scores. Actually is pretty good. Is it where we want to be? No. We're going to continue to work on it, and I'll go through what we have in place to do that. Math, you know, math for a couple of years, if you've been looking at our trend for the last few years, our math trend has been about the same. We brought on a couple of different curriculums at those schools, hoping to see a difference. Right at the start of COVID, we brought in a curriculum at Lee, and we just haven't really seen the whole return of that yet, of the last few years. So final designations, this puts Lee at Mendel, which is a wonderful place to be. That means that we don't have any unperforming groups, but we're not in the top 10% of the state. And if you recall, looking back at those growth pieces with Lee, we didn't see that growth from 2019 to 2022 in the same way that we did at Giles. So Giles ended up being exemplary in their growth, which means that they don't have any unperforming groups, and they are of the top 10% of the state. Something to be celebrated and very excited about. Does not mean that our work is done. We have a lot of work ahead of us. So I shared with you once again, and I'm not going to go through all of this with you, we went through this last month, but if you have any questions, and we have principals here if you have any questions for them as well. As you recall, we did 2 school improvement plans last year, which we passed to the board and then gave you an update on last month. This is what we are working on in order to bring those scores up. Now, this is not, the difference between MAP, so we're using MAP here, which is NWEA MAP, which is a benchmark assessment we take 3 times a year. We are able to see growth in MAP from winter to winter, and that is the area that we're working on. So we're measuring progress from winter of 21 to winter of 23. So we'll very soon be getting ready to take MAP again, and then looking at where our, did we hit our 60% of our students meeting or exceeding expected gains on MAP. IR is a little different. We only take it once. You only get that data then. It's like they call it autopsy data. You get it after the assessment's over and done. Can't really go back and fix anything or change anything. Where MAP, we get information that will spill out to us on where the student's progress is, what standards they need to work on, and how we can actually change. So the lead goal is 60% of the students meeting or exceeding expectations in MAP. The reading goal at Lee is 60% meeting or exceeding in MAP reading. Giles is at 60% meeting or exceeding in MAP. Is that true, Mr. Baker?
It's 70%.
70, thank you. I feel like that was wrong. I think that's that slide choice. And then 70% as well for Giles. As you can see, just again, paging through these, and I'm not going to read every one of them to you, we have some things that are complete. We have some things that we've already put in place of our action plan. We have some things that are in progress, and we have some things we haven't started yet in all of the different areas. What's really helping us in putting these plans together are the early release Wednesdays, and that time that the principals have to work with teams, or the time that the teams have to work on committees or PD. It's really allowing us to have that time to meet with teams that we didn't have before. the children leave early, and then we've taken the morning time that the teachers are usually in, we put it at the end of the day, so we actually have the teachers longer in that time. You have any questions about planning our data or our plans to approve it? Okay, thank you.
You're ready. Turn it right back.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a couple of things in my report today. You will notice in the consent tonight that we are asking the board to approve 2 resolutions that we spoke about last month. These may be our last resolutions, but we'll talk a little bit more about that during the discussion items on cash flow. The 2 resolutions are to move money from working cash to bonded interest for the bond payment. We have 2 times a year that we pay the bond. This time is the full payment of the bond, and then the other time is just paying some interest on the bond. So moving money out of working cash into bond and interest. And then the second one is moving money out of working cash into IMRF. We've been working on our IMRF funds. This is for retirement for our education support personnel. We've been working on getting those funds correct. I think we're finally there on moving that money. So we're asking the board to take action on that tonight in consent. In action items tonight is the tentative levy information. Last month we spoke about the levy, and I talked about the cap, the 5% cap. And since we want to make sure that we can capture all of the money that is out there, we will be doing a truth and taxation hearing next month at the beginning of the December board meeting. So that is some information for you on the truth and taxation hearing. We're going to ask for, I believe it's 8.99%. We'll probably end up around 5.3, 5.4. We want to capture new construction. It is not putting an additional burden on our taxpayers. It's not the purpose of doing that. It's just making sure that we can capture everything out there for next year. So we'll be doing that in December. We have a large facilities plan. We had a great B&G meeting, which I'm sure the committee will speak about. And today we're having you look at approving several plans, updating of the fund plans. Then there is the plumbing, water, and pipe RPZs approval tonight from the opening that we had for the request for proposal. There are generators that we're asking you to approve for both schools, and then in our RFP, a request for proposal to start some preschool work, along with a request for proposal to go out to bid, a possible bid for plumbing materials. As you recall, the request for proposal for plumbing, it allows us to buy the materials, and we can do that a couple of different ways. We can go through Sourcewell or Omni and buy our materials there because they have been vetted by the state of Illinois to be able to be approved to buy materials through them. Or we can go out for a request for proposal. We'd like to keep our options open because if a request for proposal is going to be less of less money for us, then we'd like to be able to do that.
Can I have a question?
Absolutely.
I'm confused. So, Omni is a supply house, right?
Correct.
So why wouldn't we just see what Omni's got to offer and then send it out to bid to 3 supply houses to see?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, well then why?
So we need the board needs to approve a request for proposal.
Oh,
That's exactly what we're doing. We're finding that we're not sure that Omni is going to be our best price.
no.
And so we want to be able to keep our options open.
Yep.
So we need the board to approve a request for proposal for plumbing materials.
Yeah.
The copper is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And it'll be over our $50,000 threshold.
Big time.
So that is on our agenda tonight as well. Any other questions about that? I'm sure we'll talk about all those later. I did want to let the board know that we did receive some additional Title III funds. We have 33 new students to the country that have registered in District 80. Some of the students are refugees from Ukraine. Some are refugees from other areas. And many of the students don't speak English at all. So they're coming into all of our grades. And we applied to the state of Illinois for additional funds in order to support our newcomers, and we did receive them. So I wanted to give you information about that. Also in our packet tonight, you will see a request for an industrial appraisal report. What we found is, so every year, we have to complete an industrial appraisal for insurance companies. So the insurance company says, okay, update everything so that if there was some reason that we needed to replace everything, we need to know the cost of what that would be. Last year, which was our first time looking at it, we realized that it had not been updated in many things. It had things on it that we did not have anymore. It had things on it that, the things weren't on it that we do have. For example, the new tractor we bought last year, or 2 years ago, wasn't on it at all. So we have a proposal for the industrial appraisal people to come out to our buildings. They will take inventory of everything that we have. They will make sure that that's completely up to date, and then moving forward, it's just the maintenance of keeping that going. Unfortunately, we did not keep that maintenance going, so there is a proposal of having them come in, get that up to date, and then moving forward. My next piece is I next month may be asking the board to approve an interventionist for reading and math for the rest of the school year, which will probably start in January. We received some additional title funds. These will be Title I funds. And we think that we'd like to bring on an interventionist in order to be working at our buildings for the remainder of the year, to be working on our MTSS process and working with our students. This person would work completely with our students as a math and reading interventionist, using those additional title funds that we actually didn't expect to receive.
Can you, just from reading to you, could you, what's an interventionist?
Yes, thank you. So an interventionist would be working with our students who have been identified under the 25th percentile on our benchmark assessments that need some extra work. So kind of like, think of it as a tutor, but this would be someone that is specialized in providing supports for students who has a reading and math background, that would be able to go into our classrooms, working with our teachers, work with our grade level as a whole. So we take the entire first grade level, we would look at the students that need the most support, and then have the interventionists work with those students while the teachers are splitting up grade level, the other children in the grade level in other ways.
Thank you.
They also can provide training for the teachers as well, which is a nice added bonus.
So, Michelle, since there is such a backlog and so many open positions across the state and the country for teaching positions, where would you get a pool of interventionists?
So we're only looking at one, and I am hoping that we have some people that graduate from university in December, and that we're able to find someone. I don't know if I'll find someone, but I think it's worth a try to look. We may have some paraprofessionals that are on staff right now that might be interested in the position as well. But then, of course, that leaves a paraprofessional opening for us, too. Because we do have paraprofessionals who have teaching degrees. So that may be one route. But we're really hoping that we have more and more students coming out of universities with December graduations. We have a couple of student teachers now who are student teaching with us.
Thank you.
And just my last piece of my report in the agenda tonight are the winter building rentals. So we are bringing to you the same building rentals that we had in the fall and then one additional one. And we are doing that as the board requested by trimester. So these would go until the end of March. That's it. Any questions about this? We haven't had any problems with the building rentals. Everything's done pretty smoothly.
So we'll move on to our special ed report, Mr. Masters.
Thank you. So this is actually time for us to kind of get a lot of things kind of that have already been in progress kind of get tied up. One of the things that we're actually working towards as a special education department is our goal updates. Typically at the end of each trimester, we will send out progress reports for each of our students who are identified as having disabilities and give the parents the updates as to how they are progressing on their individualized goals. These will be sent out with report cards, so they'll be coming out around the same time, so December 2nd. So if any parent who is currently working with their child is going to be getting that in the next couple of weeks. Our special education committee is also doing quite a bit of work. We've now met actually second time today. And we've actually got quite a bit of traction with how our department will be kind of moving forward. One of the big pieces that we've already worked on is actually creating a department-wide handbook. We finished it tonight, so we will hopefully be pushing that out by the end of the week. That just gives us a lot more opportunity to kind of have a cohesive department for all new incoming staff who might, in whatever year that we have, just a very level playing field. And then from there, we can kind of develop more procedures in place for more specialized kinds of goals. Other things that they will be working on in the future will also include creating sample IEPs, tutorials for common challenges that they need the paperwork. The paperwork can be quite a lot, so it's nice to have something to kind of look back on. And then we are kind of starting to take a very brief look at summer trainings. That has only been briefly discussed, so we hope to kind of get something on the books for that as well. A number of our special education staff have also been able to go in and support with the PBIS committee work, which actually culminated in several of them going over to the PBIS Leadership Forum, in Chicago this past month. They went to a number of different trainings, including presentations on behavior, equitable discipline. So it's nice that they can actually bring this back to a lot of the staff, not just the special education staff, but the general education staff as well. Also, through our PLC work, we've actually been able to kind of segment our different groups. Again, special education is very specialized needs in nature. So we have quite a few of our self-contained and related service professionals actually pulling out and doing their smaller PLCs within that. We've had a lot of different discussions regarding referrals to our special education, self-contained classrooms, and how to support those individuals throughout the day. So that is a continuing goal of ours. We want to really refine that process so that everyone is very clear as to how our students are kind of eligible for those types of programs. And then lastly, we have continued our work with West 40. We've actually had a couple of different types of support for them. They have supported us through our co-teaching model, so having our special education teachers push into the gen ed classroom and collaborating with the gen ed teacher to give our students the best opportunity for learning. We have also had West 40 represent us with our self-contained classrooms, really helping to set up those classrooms so that they're very structured, the students know what's coming, it's not a surprise for them, they can kind of feel more comfortable in that type of an environment. And then our third kind of bucket, if you will, that we've been working with West 40 has actually been in behavioral nature and support. We've been actually trying to refine some of our behavioral intervention plans for students. And so we've actually been able to continue our work with our contracted BCBA, not only through just refining some of those individualized behavior plans for students, but also helping train our staff as to what the best practices are for writing those plans as they stand. So, and that's my report. Questions?
Thank you, sir. Turning it over to our building principals, Mr. Viecki, Dr. Rendell, and Giles.
Trimester 1 ends this Friday, November 18th. Progress reports will be going home, be released by email, I should say, on Friday, December 2nd. That will allow staff to add comments to the progress reports so parents can have a little bit more information regarding their child for each subject level. The LMC, if you've not been to Giles, the furniture has arrived and it looks great. If you have an opportunity, please step over and look at the new furniture. Thank you for that new space. We really appreciate it. Everyone loves it. It's great to see kids back in that space. We are working on getting the books back in there, but that'll be a process. But it's good to see the kids in there and reading. The Giles exterior doors, the fobs have been installed. So again, I'd like to thank you for that project as well. That adds additional security to our building, so we really appreciate that. Athletics, as President Palazzo just said, the girls volleyball, they 8th grade won today, so they'll be playing tomorrow at 6:30 at Hester Junior High. They will be taking on the #1 seed of Union Ridge, so it should be an exciting game at Hester. If anyone is attending, there is a fee. It's $2 adults, $1 for children admission. Let's see, tryouts for boys basketball have, the first day of tryouts has taken place. There'll be an additional day of tryouts, and cheerleading is also, tryouts have taken place today as well. The month of October, we had our assembly. It was teachers versus student volleyball game. Had a great time. I'd like to thank member Mazzano for joining us. Thank you. Had a great time.
Great time.
Students loved it. November, our activities is about giving back to the community. So the students and staff are working on a canned food drive for the Salvation Army to support our local families. The students are decorating ornaments for the Village of Norwich's holiday tree. And the students also created cards for our local veterans. So it's just one way that we can teach them to give back to our community. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Excuse me. All right. I almost forgot to add this celebration, but did you see the fence in the back here on the south lot? Man, because that thing looks so much better than the piece of wood that was kind of falling over and had multiple holes from multiple 2x4s. That looks great. So just really excited about that. And seeing some of the teachers' faces, like, hey, that looks really sharp. It's just nice to see some of those improvements there. So just wanted to put that out there. We've had some fun events with the Halloween parade and the PTA sponsored Boo Bash, which I unfortunately wasn't here for, but since we do have cameras, I did kind of scope some things out, if I'm being honest, just to make sure everything was going smooth, and it was. And just want to thank the PTA for putting the Boo Bash together, and for the room parents that came to run some activities that day in the classroom. So we really appreciate that. We've had a few different events and whatnot, coordinating with both PTA and NSF. Today, NSF was selling Smensels, which, if you didn't know, are smelly pencils, which who doesn't love maybe not smelly, but scented pencils. Who wouldn't love a scented pencil, right? That was the highlight of the lunch periods today. And, NSF is raising funds to replace the risers for the stage here at Lee. So we're really, excited for all the work that they're putting in to help raise those funds. And then we also had the Scholastic Book Fair that ran for the past week and a half, with the PTA. That was a big success. Students got to visit the book fair during their library media time. I saw a lot of good books being recommended and purchased, and we really appreciate that. Teachers had a chance to put some wish lists out there, and some parents were able to help purchase some of those, and then the PTA also purchased some additional ones for classroom libraries as well. In my report, I included a little bit about some of our committee work that's going on. So if you have the opportunity to take a look at that, please do, because that really does give you some insight into what's happening during that committee time, which is really important, as Mrs. Guzik mentioned earlier. Quick report out on parent-teacher conferences. We had 95% of our families attend conferences. 19% of those conferences were virtual, and 81% were in person. So just wanted to share some of those numbers, but I think that's interesting to see, especially that breakdown We did want to have that virtual option because we had heard that there was some success with getting more families involved. So that was just interesting to see how that played out for us. Otherwise, we have had some staffing challenges. With substitutes, we're hoping that the increase in the sub pay that was recently approved helps to recruit some additional subs to the district. But because of that, we have had to cancel some groups that our paraprofessionals typically help to run. So just putting that on the radar is one of our challenges that we are facing, but we're looking to see how we can try to recruit more subs in the district, and are working to really to increase our sub pool so we have more subs available to us. I think that concludes my report for this evening.
Board, have any questions? I'm gonna, real quick before we move on, and I'm glad you said that about the Halloween party PTA put together. I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit. And I should have said it during the celebration of success, and I'm sorry I didn't, but you're exactly right. I wanna thank the PTA from the board as well. Because that night there was a lot of moving parts, and there was a lot of kids, a lot of people. And what I want whoever watches the video to realize is that these things don't just happen, right? These are volunteers. Everybody up here at the board is a volunteer. The PTA volunteers their time and their effort. And those things don't happen without people in the community who volunteer. So I appreciate it. I know the rest of the board appreciates it. And I'm glad you brought that up. So it was a great night. They did a great job. And you can tell a lot of work goes into it. And when you're involved and you volunteer, you really understand how much work goes in. So I thank everybody that was on the PTA who put that night together and who volunteered their time. So thanks for saying that. Moving on to our building discipline, Mrs. Aarons and Mrs. Carnell. Giles in lead.
Giles has 4 suspensions to report, 1 in violation of Board Policy 7:199, 2 in violation of 7:199 and 21, and 1 in violation of 7:193 and 21. We have nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Guzman, staffing report?
I have included an updated staffing report. I do on the agenda tonight, I'm asking the board to approve an ELL funded by Title III, an ELL paraprofessional. This ELL paraprofessional is a individual from, just came to their country from Ukraine, and she is certified to teach and certified to teach as a paraprofessional and certified to work in Illinois. We're really lucky to find her. It'll be a wonderful addition for our students, especially our students who are refugees from. We'll continue to interview subs and paraprofessionals. We did put 2 new subs into the sub pool since our last meeting. I don't know if that's directly related to the increase, but we're excited about that. Hopefully they start taking on those jobs every day. Any questions? Thank you.
Moving on to our committees, nothing to report from policy. Development on the board side, building and
One
grounds.
second, can I jump in on policy?
Yeah.
I gave you a copy of policy 110, just dropped out. It dropped out before we were able to add it to the agenda. However, I gave you a paper copy of it today. We'll look at it next month. Sorry.
That's all right. Building and grounds.
As Superintendent Kuzik explained, there was a really good building and grounds meeting end of October, attended by Superintendent Kuzik, Craig Schilling, Timmy was there, Lou and I, Alan from STR, building and ground staff. It was everybody you could have hoped would be at the meeting. It was a very comprehensive meeting, very well planned. A lot was discussed, and it involves plans that will take us into that go into the next 2 years at least. And one of the best parts that I liked, and what anyone would want to know, is how things were going to be funded and plans for how things were going to be funded in not just recognizing where the money would come from, but looking at those sources and seeing the most effective way to use that money. And by that, I mean looking at one source and saying, you can only spend this on this, that, and the other. We can use it for this and this, can't use it for that, so let's try using this money for that. Very well planned, and thank you, Shirley, for helping with that. We needed your expertise. It was good of you to help with that. So, as you see, there's a few things already in this agenda that we should move ahead with, and there's plenty more following this in the coming month, next couple of years. And it's really good to hear every month just fences, the media center, months ago was the STEAM labs. It's, I mean, 6 years ago we would have hoped for new schools, but I'm almost, you know, to have older schools and to take care of them very well is really good too. So I'm glad we got progress, personally. That's all I have.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Communications? Finance?
Nothing.
Negotiations, no report. Education, parent, teacher, and behavioral, as needed. Nobody's met to my knowledge, so no reports there, no reports.
Nothing to report this
All
morning.
right. Consent agenda, I ask the board to consider the approval of the consent agenda for discussion. I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Lou, seconded by Gloria, and then a roll call, please. I'm sorry. Yeah. Any roll call? Sorry. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. McCoskey?
Okay, carries. Action items. I'd ask the board to consider a motion to approve the resolution regarding the estimated amounts necessary to be levied for the year 2022 as presented, and direct the superintendent to cause to be published the attached notice of proposed property tax increase for North School District 8. Any discussion? I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution regarding estimated amounts necessary to be levied for the year 2022 as presented, and direct the superintendent to cause to be published the attached notice of proposed property tax increase for North School District 8.
Motion.
Second.
Frank, seconded by Chris. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Carries. I ask the board to consider a motion to approve water pipe replacements and purchase and install RPZ's bid for Giles and Lee schools. This monies will be from Life Saving Fund. Any discussion? I'll ask for the motion to approve the pipe replacements and purchase and install RPZ's bid for Giles and Lee school. Again, coming from the Life Safety Fund.
Motion.
Frank, seconded by Maria. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Motion carries. I ask the board to consider a motion to approve the request for proposal for plumbing supplies and materials at Giles and Lee schools. Source from the Life Safety Fund. Discussion. I'll ask for a motion to approve the request for proposal for plumbing supplies and materials at Giles and Lee schools from the Life Safety Fund.
Motion.
Chris, seconded by Maria. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Carries. I'd ask the board to consider a motion to purchase a generator for Giles School to replace the existing generator at the cost of $45,255. Cooperative purchasing agreement with Source Bond Fund. Discussion. I'd ask for a motion to approve the purchase of a generator for Giles School to replace the existing generator at a cost of $45,255. Cooperative purchasing agreement with Source Bond Fund.
Motion.
So time, we'll go Chris and Frank. Motion made by Chris, seconded by Frank. Roll call.
Mr. Munson,
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo,
Yes.
Mr. Luzio,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala, Mr. Gonzalez.
And carries. Ask the board to consider a motion to purchase a generator for Lee School to replace the existing generator at a cost of $32,685. Cooperative purchasing agreement with Sourcewell, again, Source Bond Fund. Discussion.
I have a question. Why is there a difference between the two generators? Is it based on square footage?
Yes.
Thank you.
And it should note the generators have a 52-week lead time.
Have a what?
52-week lead time.
Okay.
So that's why we're ordering them as quickly as we can.
Questions? All right, ask for a motion to approve the purchase of a generator for Lee School to replace the existing generator at a cost of $32,685. Cooperative purchasing agreement with Sourcewell, source of the monies for the bond.
Motion.
Second.
Frank, second by Luke. And roll call, please.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala, Mr. Munson,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Carries. I ask the board to consider a motion to approve the request for proposal for renovation of the former library location here at the school to create an early childhood area, source from the bond fund. Discussion. I ask for a motion to approve the request for proposal for renovation of the former library location here at the school to create an early childhood area coming from the bond fund.
Motion.
Second.
Frank, seconded by Chris. And roll call.
Mr. Munson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozano.
Yes.
Mrs. Lala, Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes.
Carries. Thank you. Turn it over to Mrs. Guzzo for some discussion items.
I have a presentation on this. So three quick discussion items this evening. The first one is on the cash flow. So as you know, tax bills are expected to be in the hands of taxpayers by December 7th, talking about them being sent out on December 1st. When taxes are paid by tax owners, we actually get that money fairly quickly. So there's a very short time period from when they're paid to when it starts dropping into our accounts. So we're very confident at this moment that we are going to be receiving some tax dollars mid-December, which will be able to carry us through the month. However, our next board meeting is December 13th. If we are confident that we will be able to bring us through the end of the month of December, then we will be looking at a final resolution that will be a loan for about $400,000 out of operations and maintenance into the ed fund. And then again, as those tax dollars come in, we would put that back into operation and maintenance. We're feeling pretty good right now. We feel like that we have been very responsible this last few months. Obviously, our biggest expense is payroll and liabilities, but we feel like we will be able to make the December 10th payroll. The question is, how much money comes in before we have the December 22nd payroll. So we'll make a decision on for the 13th board meeting, and that would be our final. We should be fine with that. I don't think that we'll have any delay in the March bills. I think that will be fine. We're expecting about $4 million in December. I'm asking the board tonight to consider allowing me to move forward and looking at collection agencies. It's not an action item, this is just the introduction of it. I will bring this to you next month. But wanted to give you a little update on where we are with collecting fees. We have about $31,000 that we have not collected from last year or prior years. So I'm not going to say all of that is from 21, 22. That could have been before that as well. We are expecting about $229,000 in our current year. And then our 8th grade fees, and the reason I mentioned 8th grade fees, is 8th grade fees, you can point when you're in 8th grade, you have to have your fees paid in order to be able to attend some of the 8th grade activities. Can't hold graduation from kids, but in order to be able to go on the 8th grade trip, in order to go to the 8th grade dance, your 8th grade fees have to be paid. Kind of the point where, I mean, there are some 8th graders that are $1,000 in fees because they haven't paid the last 4 years of fees. So it's the point where parents need to pay. So I mentioned 8th grade too as well. I have personally made many phone calls to, we have a few parents who have not paid their kindergarten fee from last year. And I've called people and called people and called people, and they always tell me that they're going to pay. However, they are not paying. And I feel like I'm at a point with these prior fees where I need some support from an outside agency. I can't do what an outside agency can do on collecting fees. So I would like to bring a proposal to the board next month on going to a collection fees. To my knowledge, and my recollection, we haven't had one in the past. However, I just don't think we can continue having people get to the point where you're not paying kindergarten fees and not continuing your current fees so that this 8th grade number actually grows even more. We don't want an 8th grader not paying kindergarten fees 8th grade. So I'll be bringing that to the board next month. Last month I mentioned to you in my report that I wanted to take a look at policy 5330. So just to be clear, this policy, this board policy applies to educational support personnel. So it doesn't cover anyone with a contract. It doesn't cover anyone that is under the collective bargaining agreement. So it's our paraprofessionals, our administrative assistants, our maintenance people who are covered under this. This particular policy talks about sick leave, vacation days, holiday, and personal leave. And there's a 2-tier system on there when it comes to sick leave. If you were employed before July 1st of 2013, or if you were employed after July 3rd of 2013, July 1st, excuse me. And the one thing I want to really point out is it does not distinguish between 10-month employees, 11-month employees, and 12-month employees. And it lumps all of those employees in the same area. Currently, what that policy has is if you were hired before July 1st of 2013, this is the 2-tier approach. In year 1, the end of year 5, you receive 12 sick days. Moves forward to year 6 to year 15 with 15 sick days, and then anything above year 16 maxes out at 20 sick days. Also, the language states that unused sick leave can be accumulated up to 240 days. People who are educational support staff are in IMRF, not in TRS. IMRF does allow you 1 year of exchange of sick days towards 1 year of retirement. TRS allows you 2, IMRF allows you 1. If you were hired after July 1st of 2013, then you have a straight 10 sick days per year, and still that unused sick leave that accumulates up to 240. What I'd like to propose is to change the system for 12-month employees. So a 10-month employee, these are employees that are working only 10 months. That is like paraprofessionals, people in that area. Then our 11-month employees are some of our support staff, our administrative assistants in the office that only work 11 months, they don't work in July. But our 12-month employees are here with us all year long. Our 12-month employees are people that we train into highly trained areas and highly skilled people, and we want to be able to give them some more incentive on sick leave structure. Because as I mentioned, if you were hired after July 1st of 2013, there's no additional sick days that can possibly come to you after that. You can be here 20 years, 30 years, and you don't have anything additional. What I'd like to propose is that we add in some language just for 12-month employees that allow us to go back to that 2013, before 2013 structure. And this allows us to provide that additional sick time. Also would allow us to have them accumulate more than an unlimited amount, which does not mean that we're giving them more, it just means we're keeping track of more for them. Because if you are here, for example, 30 years, 20 years, you get to a point where your 240 days are met, and then what? We don't give them any more sick time, because they already have 240. When they can use those days to turn into IMRF. And it's important to note, we don't have any retirement incentive with our paraprofessionals. So there isn't anything that says, you could turn in a sick day for $50 or $25 or anything like that, or anything that says that, you'll get up an additional amount if you let us know you're retiring, as we have in our teacher's contract. So there isn't any language about that.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, excuse
No,
me if
no.
you said it and I missed it. Who falls into this bracket?
Sure. So this is anyone not in the CBA,
Yeah.
and anyone who does not have a contract. So I have a contract, so I would not, principals would not.
Right.
So this is maintenance.
Yeah, okay.
This is our paraprofessionals and our administrative assistants.
So then who would fall into the 10-month employee? And I
So
know
our
you said-
10-month employee are paraprofessionals who come in and work with our students.
So there's two sets of paraprofessionals, 12 and 10 months?
No. Then when we move into 11 months, that's our administrative assistants in the offices. So the Betty who's in here at Lee, Eileen that's over there at Giles, they are off July. And
So
then
the paras fall into the 10-month?
correct.
Okay.
And then our 12-month people are our district officers.
Okay, thank you.
So moving into the next section of vacation days, our 12-month people currently right now have this breakdown of vacation days. The language in here, and this is what I mentioned to you last month, I'm not sure this was the intent of the language. But the language says beginning of year 2, by end of year 5, they get 0.83 days per month, up to 10 days per year. So every month you finish 1 month of working, you get 0.83 days, that all adds up to 12 months into 10 days per year. What this is saying though, is that you don't qualify for any vacation until you have worked a whole year in the district. This is not something we have been following. So I think we need to clear up if this is the intent of the language and we're following it, then we have to say that people who we hire 12-month employees don't receive any vacation until they've completed a whole year.
Can you go back one slide?
Back to sick leave.
Yeah. That's your proposal. What is current language on 12-month for sick leave?
Sure. So 12-month, if you were hired, before January 1st of 2013, then you have that same structure that I just mentioned. If you were hired after July 1st of 2013, then you have 10 sick days per year, and it accumulates up to 240. And keep in mind, I'm only asking for this for our 12-month employees. So these are employees that mostly are district office employees, administrative assistants.
So this is for the 12-month,
Correct.
and then when you get a second, you can get back to your proposal for the,
Sure. I'm not proposing to change anything on our 10-month or 11-month employees.
Okay.
So the paraprofessionals would stay the same, the 11-month employees would stay the same as well.
But on your proposal for 12-month vacation, that was your most recent slide, right?
Correct. So this was the sick leave area. Then looking at vacation, currently right now, our 12-month employees have this breakdown,
Uh-huh.
which states beginning of year 2 to the end of year 5. What I'm proposing is we change that to the beginning of year 1 to the end of year 5. And then we continue, this is a very common accruement of vacation days. You finish a month, you get a 0.83, you continue, and then you end up with 10 years.
So under your proposal here,
10 days, excuse me.
under your proposal and with current language in regards to 12-month employee, proposal plus current language would equal 20 total days, right? In year 1, 10 vacation and 10 sick,
Correct, yes, correct,
for a total of 20 days.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we look back, we're looking at sick leave proposal, and this is only for 12-month employees, would be year 1 through year 5 would be 12 sick days, so that's 22.
And I'm sorry, it currently is what? I know it's after July 1 of 13,
10.
it's 10, so we want to update to 12. Okay.
I
So-
want to match the language that's in the policy right now, which is this language.
So, under your proposals, if approved, 12-month employee would be at a total of 22 days in year 1,
Correct.
combined with sick and vacation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Starting at the beginning of your,
Well, you accrue, you did the sick days, sorry, at the beginning of the year. The vacation days, you accrue 0.8, excuse me for a moment. You accrue 0.83 days per month.
And upon accrual of those days, when can you use them?
As you accrue them, you can use them.
Right away? There's no minimum?
As you accrue them, you can use them.
how many employees do you have before 2013? And versus,
How many paraprofessionals?
no, the 12-month employees?
Oh, how many fall into that category?
Yes.
I believe 1. I believe 1 employee, or 1 educational support staff falls under this category right now.
And the rest of them,
After July 1st of 2013.
how many is that?
Paraprofessionals, so 10-month paraprofessionals, and
12
we have
months.
about
12
12
months.
months. 2. We're mostly talking about the district office 12-month people.
Right, that's, so you, my question, let me just make sure, you got 1 12-month employee before 2013.
I'm sorry, let me clarify that. I have 1 paraprofessional that's a 10-month before July 1st of 2013.
Do you have any 12-month employees?
I do not.
Okay,
I apologize. I misunderstood.
okay. So how many 12-month employees do you have?
2.
Okay, so those 2 you want that language for.
Correct. That is correct. We have a little more. Current holidays are listed in the policy. This is what's currently listed in the policy right now, and as you can see, it's been updated from press because it does include a Juneteenth day. However, this is a press update. So when we update policy, we approve the policy, and then press goes ahead and updates our policy. We don't take Abraham Lincoln's birthday off, we take President's Day off instead. So all I would really like to do in this area is take away the writing of what the days are. As you can see, there are 10 holidays that are observed. I would like to just have that no less than 10 holidays will be awarded to 12-month employees a year. It's just simple to say that, and that will determine it by June 15th. Because it seems like every year I'm gonna have to change something on here. So you can see the 2022 election day is on there. However, our maintenance people had to work the 2022 election day because we had election here at Layton, so they had to open our building, they had to keep everyone safe during the day, they had to close our buildings. So I don't want to just be boxed into this language. this isn't such a big change. I'm not giving them any additional days, I'm not proposing additional days, just giving the flexibility for us to say that we'll award no less than 10 days to 12 months employees a year.
Michelle, in your example of the maintenance department having to work election day, do they get another day in place of that?
We did make an agreement this year for a different day. They're taking the day after Thanksgiving off instead. But if I had, I would have a little more flexibility here. And I mean, we had to have people in the building on election day.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it was what it was. So just to summarize, the proposed changes would be to change 12-month employees' sick leave structure. Change the 12-month employees' sick leave accumulation. Changing the 12-month employees' vacation structure, and then just that wording piece for vacation days for 12-month employees on the holidays. Just think that we didn't have these different areas of 10-month and 11-month and 12-month in mind when we were looking at this policy, when we considered policies go back. And I realize that may look like additional days, but I think it is something that is needed to keep staff also.
Are you going to, if it gets approved by the board, are you going to prorate these days to people that didn't get them, the 12 month?
No, we would
Just
move
moving
forward from the
forward?
date the board
Okay.
approved it,
Okay.
if the board approves it.
Okay.
That is the last of my discussion items. Any questions?
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Or comments? Counselor Chance. Okay, closed session. Next, the board to consider a motion to adjourn closed session to discuss the employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and to review closed session minutes, and the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters related to individual students. Discussion. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, collective bargaining matters, and to review closed session minutes and the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters related to individual students. Motion.
Second.
All right, seconded by Maria. Any roll call?
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabucio?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Pizzano? Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Okay, that carries. We're over time. We're out of open session right now. It's 8:12 p.m. Let's try to be closed. I would say by 8:30.
We do have a cake this evening to celebrate the Board of Education Month, so please grab a piece of that, I think.
All right, we're back in open session at 9:21 p.m. Personnel action items. One, consider a motion to approve Tatiana Kovitz, District ELL paraprofessional discussion. I need a motion to approve Tatiana Kovitz, District ELL paraprofessional.
Motion.
Chris, seconded by Maria. Roll call.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Mazzano?
Yep.
Mr. Trabucio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Carried. And as the board consider a motion to approve Aaron Schlesinger, District Special Ed Paraprofessional. I'll ask for a motion to approve Aaron Schlesinger, District Special Ed Paraprofessional.
Motion.
Maria, second. Chris, roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Lala? Yes. Mr. Munson?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yeah.
Mr. Trabucio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Carries. As the board to consider a motion to approve a contract with Jennifer Pincos as a certified school nurse to conduct health history reports for individual education plans as required by Illinois State Board of Ed. Discussion. I'll ask for a motion to approve a contract with Jennifer Pincos as a certified school nurse to conduct health history reports for individual education plans as required by Illinois State Board of Ed. Moved. Seconded by? Maria. Roll call.
Mr. Gonzalo,
Yeah.
Mrs. Lala.
Yes.
Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio,
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Monson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari.
Yes.
Carries. Reflection time?
Yeah.
At the same time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. We'll note the time at 9:22 p.m. Move, second by, Maria, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Palazzo, recession 9:20.